Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Just a quick one today, 4.5 patch notes, and let's go through them, because I'm at my lunch break right now, and I don't have an awful lot of time, but I'm going to just get a quick walkthrough of these things. So, what has changed? The update is live, as you might have noticed. It was late last night, and I haven't tried it yet. But what has changed? We've got some UI change, probably the biggest one, solving one of my least important problems, the color scheme. So instead of having the blue color scheme, you can now have the green color scheme back, but only in battles. The whole rest garish space modern thing, including the absolutely abysmal battle opening screen, is still there and remains as it is. Improved text readability. So a bunch of text things are larger now, such that they're easier to see in port and everywhere else. Hasn't affected me hugely. I'm playing on a phone. It's I don't know what it is, like a 6.5-inch screen or something. And I have been perfectly able to read things, even though they were a bit on the flimsy side, but yeah, definitely helps. Increased clickable area for various buttons. So yes, because they are now so tiny for somebody who has a tendency to fat finger things, it's now actually easier. All right. Good. Well, all nice. There's a social media menu, which I could care less about. What else has been done? You can watch an ad to refresh missions. Meh, don't care. For Blitz Pass, maybe not unimportant. Notification for new items in the shop. These notifications tend to not work that well for me. Generally, I either have notifications that shouldn't be there, or I have some that should have been there but aren't. Unique equipment icon. And in the tech tree, we don't have that many. I'm assuming they're meaning the legendary equipments for the tier 10s. I don't think there are that many ships out there that have that, actually. We should get some more of those. And it's also in the armory. What else? The whole vault story, we're not going to comment on that. Drop rate. I thought we had a drop rate of stuff. Oh well, more information about gambling and loot crates is always good, because information makes people make informed choices. Bug fixes. There's a grand total of 2. But, well, they have resolved the issues with the friends list. That would be nice, because the friends list has been broken since 4.3, I think, for me, or even earlier than that. And I've basically given up trying to use it, because also it would, unfortunately, it's only the empty friends list, and it's not at least they haven't mentioned it, the random shuffling of the friends list. Because if I'm trying to reply to a DM in game, it's literally impossible, because my friends list is full, which means there are 200 of you. And it also means that, well, if every time I scroll the list shuffles, it's almost impossible to find the person to reply to. And makes things really, really difficult. So that's why I sometimes might not be replying to DMs in-game, just because of that. But that seems not to have been fixed, so, well, we'll have to check. All right, now all the unpleasantness aside, let's look at the interesting stuff, the ship balancing. All right, where do we got? The Graf Zeppelin has gotten her auto-secondary range increased, and she's got the secondary overload skill. Now, the auto-secondaries are usually not vastly useful against destroyers, because the auto-secondaries have certain difficulties with leading their shots correctly and actually aiming. Unless the destroyer is sailing flat on broadside in a straight line, the auto-secondaries will not do a huge amount against destroyers. Your main weapon against destroyers is usually the 150mm that you can actually control. But it's still always nice to see. The Black Graf Zeppelin actually gets 2 secondary overload skills, but it's only skill 1. The Japanese gunboat line, the Aki, Kitakaze, and Harugumo, have been getting their main battery turret traverse up to 18 degrees per second. That is very welcome. I like that. As the Akizuki is an amazing ship. The Fen Yang, I actually had to look that one up, because I, for some reason, completely missed that thing. It's a Pan-Asian Aki with a defensive AA instead of a torpedo reload, and the guns aren't quite as good. So I really don't understand why it would exist, but I haven't reviewed it yet, so I might actually still have to take a look at that thing. The main battery reload has been decreased significantly by 1 second, which is still not as good as the Aki, but gets the same turret traverse and gets an additional engine accelerator and an additional smoke, maybe just to compensate for these things a little bit. The Shenyang, one of my absolutely favorite ships, unfortunately got nerfed a little bit. Got her damage reduction decreased. I mean, she is or was an American destroyer initially, so having a bit better armor plating was probably in line with how the American destroyers are set up. Is it going to make a huge difference in practice? Probably not, because it's a 1.5% damage reduction decrease. So if somebody does 400 alpha damage with an AP shell, and they would get a full pen, we're talking about 6 points of damage more that I'll be taking now than I would have been taking earlier. Yeah, it's not nice, but damage reduction isn't a hugely important stat on these things. We'll see. I'm still playing this thing rather aggressively as a gunboat. The Yuyang has gotten nerfed as well. It's got the main battery reload up to 3.6 seconds. I haven't played the Yuyang, so I can't really say if that was warranted or not. I'm still at this Anderson Xianyang in my personal account. The North Carolina has been buffed, and well, if you've been following my videos, you know my opinion about the North Carolina. She gets a better AP penetration. Okay, no, that's interesting. Still not going to make me play that thing, but okay. The Kansas has been nerfed, and that is much more interesting. So apparently the traditional USN battleship line has been getting buffed a little bit, and the old history maximum battleship line has been cut a little bit down to size. So a dispersion increase by 7% is actually quite significant. That's a precise aiming module that you've just lost. So okay, that's something. The Georgia is a premium, gets a better engine accelerator, and the Monty gets a better dispersion and more torpedo damage reduction and more hit points. Yeah, that I'm gonna take that. Still not gonna make me want to play these, but okay. The Vermont, like I said, the other line got hit a bit. Gets a 1 second reload time increase. Gets a worse dispersion, although just by 4%, and the 0 to max speed, so the acceleration has been decreased from half a minute to half the battle. 38.75 seconds, that's quite significant. So cannot accelerate very well. Basically, once more relegated to stationary artillery that shoots every half minute at the enemy, which is not a playstyle that I personally prefer. But if you've got a Vermont, you're going to have to live with that now. The Lyon has been nerfed. I don't understand why, but okay. The range has been decreased to 11.4 kilometers, which is completely insignificant because the Lyon has trouble hitting targets at 1.8 kilometers, so 11.8 kilometers. I mean, you couldn't hit anything before, and you can't hit anything now, so that's not a thing. The République, this is interesting. So here we actually have to think about this a little bit. Her dispersion has been increased, but her dispersion coefficient has been decreased. Now, what the hell is that? The closest I can think that is meant to be is the sigma value. So what does that mean? I'm going to have to make a video about this, but effectively it means that the dispersion is an ellipsis. So like a flat circle around your target in which your shells are landing. All shells will land within the dispersion ellipsis. Now, the sigma tells you how far from the center they land, or what is the distribution, if we want to get specific, of things that are landing closer to somewhere scattered around the outside rather than in the center of it. So I would assume that a larger sigma means more of a scatter shot, and a smaller sigma would mean a more tight spread within the ellipsis. Now the ellipsis size has increased, so there's more space within which the shells can land, but the chance of them landing somewhere at the center of it seems to have been increased quite a bit by making a smaller sigma. Yes, so I can't tell what's the impact. If anyone is playing Republic frequently, then you probably will be able to. But in theory, I don't know what that jump from 2 to 1 signifies, because I don't know what the initial range of that was. What is the maximum sigma? Is it 10? Is it 100? I don't know. So we're going to have to see how that plays out in practice. The Amagi has gotten her belt armor improved, which probably can't hurt. So you're not going to be able to hurt Amagis as much as you used to be able to. The Shikishima gets a better citadel damage rate, because the Shiki gets the 510 millimeter? I don't know what that's in inches, but a lot of shells. So she gets a special 350 citadel damage rate, because I think 300 is for the Yamato size, so 18-inch shells, and 250 is for everything up to 410, presumably. Something like that. Now we're getting back to the Soviets. Oh, no, we've got a lot to say about the Soviets recently. The Vladivostok. The first item is interesting, because what does that even mean? The accuracy increased at close to medium ranges. Okay. I don't understand how this works, because accuracy isn't like... Is accuracy non-linear? Does it mean that if you shoot at something that's closer by, you suddenly get a better dispersion? Maybe. Maybe that's how this works. So that, in combination with a damage reduction increase, so better armor technically, not the actual armor values, because no one's noted that here. I mean, assume that it's not happened, but the actual damage reduction, as in how much damage do you subtract from the alpha damage that a hit would have done after the whole full pen, semi-pen shenanigans have been sorted. And that's just the damage you don't get from that hit. So this sounds like, in combination, what's going to happen with the Sovietsky Soyuz and the Kremlin in the next item, because they get a faster reload and the same treatment. So they get better damage reduction and slightly faster reload and slightly better precision at close to medium ranges. So they're trying to set up the Soviet battleship line as a close to mid-range brawler more, but as a main gun focused sort of. So I might have to try that actually and see if that becomes a viable play, because previously they were sort of like from how if you look at them, they were sort of more like long range snipers, but they didn't have the range and the reload to really do something about it. But if they've been up armored, or at least up statted in the damage reduction, and they can now actually brawl better, maybe it becomes a situational brawler of some sorts. The long reload is still hurting, but might be able to give it another spin. We'll see. The Kronstadt gets a better citadel, okay, and the Riga and the Petropavlovsk, because I just made a video about the Petropavlovsk. So of course Wargaming gets said balance and changes the damn thing. So what have they done to them? Half a second off the reload isn't gonna make a huge amount of a difference, honestly. It's still too long. And the deck armor has been increased, which is nice, but 76 millimeter and 102 millimeter aren't going to stop battleship shells. So it's not. It's nice. It's nice to have. Might make them more viable against other cruisers. But like stopping the occasional AP salvo, but battleships, I think, don't really care. And lastly, the Nevsky gets her dispersion decreased by 7%. So that's a free precise aiming module in the ship, pretty much. So, in summary, we can the American old history battleship line has gotten a bit of a dent. The traditional line has been buffed a little bit. And the Soviet cruisers have been slightly improved. So have the Soviet battleships, which were in dire need of doing so. Is it enough? Don't know. Gonna have to try. Certainly not gonna play the Petra again, because the changes aren't aren't significantly enough to make up for the lack of purpose that I have in this ship. So not gonna do that again. But Nevsky sounds interesting. Maybe I give another spin on the Nevsky. Maybe and maybe the Soviet battleships, but I've kind of had enough of the Soviet lines for now, so we'll do something different next week. Anyway, I think that's round about everything up. So much for a short video. Actually, I'm 15 minutes in by now. So thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.